Hello and welcome to Talking Points. I'm Dave Kelly, Director of Advanced Media Production at Cal State Long Beach. Today we're going to be talking about international education at the university level and how it impacts the global economy and the global workforce. My guest today is Dr. Jeet Joshee. Dr. Joshee is the Associate Vice President for International Education and Global Engagement, and he is also the Dean of the College of Continuing and Professional Education. Welcome, Jeet, and thank you for joining us on Talking Points.
Thank you, Dave, for having me.
Well, as we begin this conversation about international education, we should acknowledge that we now have about 4.5 million students that are studying internationally. And of those 4.5 million students, approximately 886,000 or so are studying here in the United States. So the U.S. is the #1 receiver of international students. Why are those students coming here to the United States?
Well, the 4.5 million is a global number. What that is the 4.5 million students from all over the world go to a different country to get their higher education. So it's the international student mobility that we have, and that number doubled from year 2000 to 2012. So the last decade has seen tremendous growth in terms of the international student mobility. And of that, we actually used to get a lot more than, percentage-wise, a lot more than what we get today. Of that, about 26% of all international students used to come to the United States. And today, it is about 16%. So we have gone down almost 10 percentage point in terms of getting the international students in this country. But that still is the largest group of international students in any one country. We are the #1 recipient of international students, but the competition is growing. There is Australia, there is China. China is not only the #1 supplier of international students, also they are promoting their institutions to receive international students from other countries. And the reason that they come here is still, as I said, #1 of all international students coming to the United States, is because of the academic quality of American higher education. It is still the envy of the world in terms of international higher education, our universities in particular, for research, for teaching, for other possibilities that the U.S. higher education provides international students, whether they decide to stay here or they decide to go back. The job prospect of a U.S. degree is much greater than any other place. So they come here, for that. And also, U.S. institutions provide the opportunities not only in teaching and research, but other, in terms of employment to companies here in the U.S., employment to companies internationally. There are many more global companies today than ever before. So it provides that kind of a quality opportunity that they get, even if it is expensive to study in the States. In most cases, the survey shows that U.S. is either #1 or #2 choice of all international students globally.
So when they arrive here, they have the opportunity not only for great education, but it's a bridge into the professional world as well.
It certainly is. And the F1 and J1 students, which are the two visa categories mostly that they come under, does have a provision after they complete the degree. Depending on the field, they can either stay for 12 months or up to 29 months. So if you're in a STEM area, you have up to 29 months of experience you can get, and that's going into practical training and H1 visa. So it does have that opportunity, for students to get a valuable experience in this country. And many universities does provide that, career services, so the companies can hire international expertise.
If we look at international education historically, going back maybe 60 years, we can look at how this developed as a Cold War phenomenon at that time. And of course, you had the U.S. and the Western side, and you had the Soviet communist side.
Correct.
And the U.S. was using international education to try to instill the values of Western democracy and market-based economics. And the Russians or the Soviet Union, they had their point of view as well. And so by engaging in international education in that way, how did that shape or form the way we delivered international education?
Well, back then you are absolutely correct. There were some political motivations to internationalizing the education. And there were various forms of doing it. You know, U.S. had certainly the Fulbright, certainly the USAID had a number of scholarships for the foreign governments. Certainly we had Peace Corps, which is kind of a soft diplomacy that we had, and it continues to be, which is not so much international education, but in terms of in that era when it all started, it was seen as another, kind of an influence builder, so to speak. And similarly, Soviet Union were doing the same thing. They were awarding scholarships to foreign governments on a large scale. And that certainly did, influence both sides, depending on which country was on which side. That's how it went. Scholarships were, for example, if you are aligned with Soviet Union, they would provide the scholarship, and if you are aligned with Western countries, mostly, namely United States, they would provide the scholarship. So it was motivated, through that, but certainly it did provide much needed training and education to government officials, other, university students from those countries. It did provide that. But that political aspect was there. But that has really changed. Now, in terms of the scholarship, it's more so about understanding about the world, getting the expertise and skills of other cultures, of other traditions, rather than influencing the Western values or the Soviet values at that time that existed. Now it is much more so about understanding each other, how things work, so that our students would be able to work in that different environment, be able to speak the language, understand the cultures and traditions of that particular country that they would like to go to, or the global industry sector. There, as I said, the global business sector has grown quite a bit. You need to know a different culture from a business perspective to work in a different country. So now education is more focused. International education is more focused about understanding each other better.
It's interesting that you bring that up about needing to know other languages and other cultures in order to be effective in the global marketplace. And you gave a presentation recently about the assembly of the Boeing 787 Superliner jet. And in that presentation, you brought out the fact that although it's an American-made jet, the components and the parts are manufactured in 9 different countries. And within those—
19, actually.
Is it 19 now? Okay.
Yeah.
And within those countries, we know that at least 6 different languages are spoken. So, and that's the kind of work that engineers are doing today. So this really points out how important it is to be literate in terms of international education.
Yeah, I did, do that presentation, and I wish I had that chart over here. What it was showing, what it was trying to tell, is that there was a picture of the plane, and all the major components of the plane, from wing to fuselage to tail to the front part, they were made in different countries. So the message, from that the picture was that, yeah, it is an American plane, but these are a worldwide industry. To make one plane, you need 19 countries and 6 different languages. I think it was actually more than 6 different languages. That is how most of the business sectors are functioning today, that you cannot do everything in one place. When back in the manufacturing days, we built everything from top to bottom, here. But now we can't do that. The global trade has expanded so much throughout the world, intercontinent, scale. For anything, we need to understand, how the business world works in different countries.
I think we have to acknowledge also China and the development of China over the last 30 years, and especially over the last 15 years, that China is now the major player in international education. About 31% of undergraduate students in the US that are foreign students are from China. So what's happening with China in international education these days?
Well, a number of things. China itself has developed some outstanding educational institutions. They have been investing heavily in higher education. Whenever I go to China, I kind of get envious in terms of the funding that is available for higher education compared to what is happening, especially in the public education sector in this country. So they've been doing that. As a result, they have increased their educational capacity themselves. But as we all know, it's a country with over 1 billion population. It's still the educational institutions that they have cannot hold the demand that is there for higher education. So they look for other countries. That's one aspect of it. Secondly, as you mentioned, that China has become a major player, mainly from the economic point of view. There are more the middle class growth in China is tremendous. So people have money, and until very recently, until actually last week, the one-child policy that they had, the parents felt everything that they had nothing else to invest to other than that one child. So give them the best education they could give, and that's when they wanted to send their child to the United States and to get the education here. So, so that aspect of it, in having the wealth, being able to invest in education in a foreign country, played a major role in sending, in we receiving many more Chinese students than anywhere else.
I think we only have about a minute or so before we go to the break, so we'll have to cover this one fairly quickly. But in the past, we were talking about the Cold War era, and going forward, things have changed a lot today. They're not like they were in the past. Also in the past, other countries were concerned about what was called brain drain, where they would send their students to the US, but the fear was those students would become highly educated in the US and then stay in the US for the lucrative jobs. The brain drain concern isn't as strong as it was before, is it?
Not as strong, but it's still there. But back then, they had a provision. Most of the scholarship students came on a J1 visa, especially whether it is sponsored by the home country or United States or any other foreign country. They come on a J visa, and they had a 2-year provision that they had to go back after they completed the degree. So that helped, but still there were students who came here, they stayed. But many of the scholarships were given to government officials as well. So they had a job waiting for them, so they went back. But the brain drain happened in an independent sector of students, people who funded their own education. They came here, they stayed here. There was nothing to be gained back home, in that regard. But now the new terminology is brain gain, not the drain, because more students are going back to their home countries than before, because the job prospects have improved, economy has improved. Oftentimes, depending on which country we're talking about, the salary scale is just about the same. And if you get the same kind of salary and get to speak your own language, get to eat your own food among your families in your society, you would go back. So the situation has improved. So there is a brain gain in that aspect for many countries these days.
Very good. And with that, we'll go to the break. And stay with us. When we come back from the break, we'll talk more about international education, and we'll also talk about sending American students overseas. Stay with us. There's a world of opportunity available through the College of Continuing and Professional Education at Cal State Long Beach. Does your career involve legal work, law enforcement, fraud investigation, or crime scene analysis? You can increase your skill level and enhance your career by enrolling in the Basic Applied Forensic Science and Crime Analysis Certificate Program. For more information, contact the College of Continuing and Professional Education at Cal State Long Beach. Welcome back to Talking Points. I'm Dave Kelly. My guest today is Dr. Jeet Joshee. We're talking about international education. And Jeet, when we went to the break, we were talking about brain gain as opposed to brain drain. And there's an issue that I want to talk about here at home that's been of concern to people. They've heard about it in the press. And so I want to give you a chance to really set the record straight, because I think there's been some misperceptions and misconceptions about what we're doing here with international education. And the concern seems to be that, well, it's fine and good that they're expanding international opportunities for foreign students, but what about our own students? Aren't they impacted at Cal State Long Beach, and don't they have more students than they can admit? So how does it help to, for example, admit 300 foreign students for the beginning of the school year? Doesn't that mean they're taking the seats that should be going to 300 California native students?
Well, from the outset, it seems that way, because you are taking 300 seats. You are giving 300 seats to the international students, but not exactly. It is misinformation or misunderstanding, so to speak, because how CSU in particular, how our funding mechanism works is based on the enrollment target, which is set by the Chancellor's office to each of the campuses. So for example, for Cal State Long Beach, let's say our enrollment target is 32,000 FTE, full-time equivalent students. That's what we get funding for. If we brought 300 more students from overseas, our funding is still that 32,000. And we are not decreasing the 32,000 FTE that we have set our target for, because the 300 is coming from overseas. We have to keep, by our own policy, the FTE target that's given to the campus and the funding that we receive. The 300 additional is only because our infrastructure would be able to support it. So that's an extra incentive, actually, extra revenue for the university on top of the funding that we get from the state. So we don't replace 300 in-state students with the 300 international students. So if we didn't bring anybody, let's say, from overseas, 0 international students, doesn't mean that we will take 33,000 FTE, because the additional enrollment we would enroll may not be funded, will not be funded in many cases. Our funding would still be 32,000, and that's what's set by the Chancellor's office. So we never replace our in-state students with the international students. That's the CSU environment. So the misperception, as you said, is there. When you look at it, oh, they have 300 from there, so there must be 300 that we didn't take from in-state. That's not so. We take every single student from the state that we have promised we would take.
In addition to that, it actually gets better than that, in the sense that because the foreign students are paying a lot more for tuition, some of that money that they're paying is going to help finance extra sessions and extra courses and so forth for our native-born students.
That is absolutely true, because this is how it works. The international students would pay a full tuition and fees on campus, and additionally they pay a non-resident fee. So they pay a full cost of education because the state does not subsidize their education. So they in turn contribute towards something like, what we have in California is the state university grant. They contribute, towards that, but they don't receive it. So it helps our in-state students in that regard, that the international students are contributing towards the state university grant, which is only for California residents. So they bring the revenue, contribute towards our, overall, but that they are not qualified for a scholarship and they don't receive any. They pay the full cost of education to come to Cal State Long Beach.
So just to summarize, foreign students, as they're admitted into Cal State Long Beach or any of the other CSUs, they're not replacing California natives or places that would go to California natives. They're actually enhancing the environment.
They are not replacing any California students at all. And they certainly contribute towards and we're talking strictly from a monetary point of view, but then the value and the diversity and all that they add, certainly benefits our students as well.
And as we talk about benefiting our students, we want to send our California native students overseas as well, because I think it's important for them to have the overseas experience and to engage in learning abroad. And so there's been an initiative here on campus of late where we've really put a lot of emphasis on study abroad for our own California students. Tell us about that initiative and the funding that's been made available for that.
Annually, we send about 1,000, a little less than 1,000 students overseas of all programs, counted. That is, in terms of the total student population, we have about 38,000 now. 37,500 will be over 38,000 next year. That's a small percentage of students going overseas. What we want our students to gain that global perspective by going overseas, living there, learning a different culture, learning a different tradition, and gain that global understanding, global perspective as a whole, which is very important in today's world. So what we've done on campus is really the President Connolly, when she spoke at one of our events, wanted to double our study abroad numbers by 2020. So we've got 4 more years to work to double from 900 plus to 1,800, 2,000 students studying overseas. So to realize that goal, what we have done is establish some scholarships so that we can help our students.
And when we talk about students going abroad as part of this global movement of international education, we're also doing something here on this campus, which is internationalizing the curriculum.
Correct.
What does that mean, and how does that play into this whole arena of international education?
Because going overseas certainly adds important element of global education, but that doesn't mean that you gain everything. And also, as I said, only a fraction of our students go overseas. But that doesn't mean the students who cannot go overseas cannot get the global focus here on campus. So our initiative is to internationalize the curriculum, infusing international content into existing courses or new courses on campus. So even if you haven't had the opportunity to go overseas, you will be able to study, you will be able to some extent, understand, to see, how things are in a different part of the world. So we're encouraging faculty, to do that, and we're giving some incentive for faculty to internationalize their curriculum.
And I know that the campus and the CSU as a whole does have a mission to reach out to the global community and to be globally engaged. And so how does international education and everything we're doing here fit into that goal and help fulfill that goal?
As we were talking in the earlier segment, how globalized this world has become, we have become very interdependent. Something happens here, something happens in Burma, something happens in Thailand, has an effect worldwide. We just saw in the recent months, a tiny bit of undervaluing of Chinese currency send the waves all over the world in terms of stock markets, diving down. So that kind of effect is there. Anything that happens in one part of the world has a profound effect on other parts of the world. So if we don't understand that phenomenon, if our graduates don't understand that, they haven't gotten the full sort of education. That's my belief. So as an international educator that, I have been in this field for over 30 years, if we don't provide at least some global understanding, global content to our graduates, we haven't done our job. That's the way I believe.
Right, and so as we've been talking through this program, in order to be engaged with the global economy, to understand the global corporate structure as it exists today, and to be able to interact at a high level, one has to have this background. But I want to also talk about how being involved and being engaged in international education has allowed CSULB to establish some partnerships with other institutions around the world. Tell us about that, if you would.
Yeah, many of the partnerships are for exchange. So what we do is we take the partnering institution student here for a semester or a year, and they take our students for a semester or a year. And we try to balance that number. It normally starts with a low number, 3, 4, 5 students, sometimes a little bit more as the partnership grows. How they do it is, what is done, it's called the one-on-one exchange. Our students pay the fee here, tuition and fee here, and they don't pay anything overseas. Same goes with the international student. They pay their tuition and fee at their home institution, and they come here and not pay CSULB tuition and fees. Of course, there is expenses for room and board and travel and all that, but at least we promote international education that way, so that our students would have the opportunity to go to overseas institutions. So that's the kind of partnership we're creating. But in addition to that, we also want to promote a faculty exchange. We do receive anywhere from 30 to 40 visiting faculty from overseas institutions, and some of our faculty do research, collaborate with faculty from our partner institutions. So it's a full-fledged partnership that we would like to create, from faculty to staff to students, so that we have that door open for our students.
Again, we're down to just about a minute.
Okay.
What can we say about emerging as a leader? If CSULB is to emerge as a leader, are we on the way to emerging as a leader in global engagement?
Leader as an international education institution, we are progressing very well. One thing I would say is that we are very well known overseas. Whenever I travel, they know about Cal State Long Beach and how popular we are. And actually, we receive many more applications than we can take, in terms of students. So we are progressing very well, but in the meantime, there is a lot more to be done. As I said, we have really very small number of students going overseas, and we need to increase that. And I was mentioning about the scholarship. We have established, along with the Associated Students, President's Office, and my office, a scholarship for our students of $200,000 annually. So that will help, and that will put us, really on the map, and make us a better, international educator.
And we'll be looking forward to the progress. I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Dave.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Talking Points. Join us again soon for the next episode. Until then, I'm Dave Kelly. Have a nice day.